Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Virginia Wilson. I will be your co-host for our class today, and we have a wonderful class waiting for you from our Human Resource Management Division for our Fulton Get Physically Fit series. Today, our guest host is Jackie Common-Cosey. She is a certified public finance manager, and she is going to unpack all of the wonderful information that we need for today in order to have a successful application when you apply for your public service forgiveness loan. This is a process that we are going to have a class today, and then we will have a follow-up class on next Tuesday in 2 weeks, which is September the 13th. That class is also going to be held from 10 a.m. till 12 noon. Our director, Mr. Herman, is going to be joining us shortly. So if he comes on, we're going to give him an opportunity to say hello. Right now, I am going to give Jackie an opportunity to say hello as well.
Good morning, everyone. Virginia, I am thrilled to be here today. You know, there is so much news around the public service loan forgiveness, and there was some announcements, some big announcements that took place last week that I'll talk about as well, but we're going to step through everything so that you will have all that you need to make sure that you don't miss out on this opportunity to get your loans forgiven, both with what they announced last week and also through the public service loan forgiveness program.
Excellent. So thank you. We're so glad to have you. And Mr. Herman is here. Thank you, Mr. Herman. And I am going to give you an opportunity to share.
Yes, again, thank you, Virginia, and the HR team for pulling all of this together with our support from our external affairs team and IT for making sure that we are able to communicate in this new learning environment that, you know, we have been tossed into for the last 2 years. And more importantly, to allow us to partner with individuals like Jackie and other partners to provide significant information to the workforce. You know, our charge historically has always been to educate the workforce on how to carry out a task or perform their job at the highest level. And I think that the new mission that we're focused on over the next couple of years, you know, we're still going to carry out that mandate, yes, but then we're also going to focus more so on the employee and the employee experience. And, you know, the Fulton Gets Financially Fit series is one of those very unique programs that we're proud to bring to you that allows us to provide you access to subject matter experts on things that are important to you and maybe you know, has clouds around that you don't really know how to navigate. And this is one example of a very beneficial opportunity for those individuals who had various student loans and the like and attended college and then chose to work in the public sector, but then having to navigate that in order to get your student loans forgiven with the X number of payments that you have to make. And then with all, like Jackie said, the new recent developments that just occurred, probably about 4 or 5 days ago. So we're going to test and see if she's up on it. If you're going to test and see if she's up on all of the things that, you know, Biden said in his press release a couple of days ago. But again, you know, if we could take one thing, you know, off of your mind from a financial position and get you to navigate that, and you'll hear some great testimonials today from 2 employees who were able to wipe out significant amounts of debt related to this program. So we're hoping that you take something of value from this. It's going to be very informational. Like I said, this is not a one and done. There's a follow-up program that is forthcoming on the same subject matter. If in fact, you know, some other employee who was unable to attend today, they'll also have the ability to see that program, as well as it's going to be recorded live. So you have the ability to play it back. So I'm going to step out of the way right now and allow the transfer of knowledge to occur and allow Jackie to take the floor and walk us all through you know, this maze of what the student loan forgiveness program has become, but now has really morphed into something completely different, and it's something that can be navigated. We have proof that it can be navigated. We can just walk you through and give you, quote unquote, a little bit of a checklist as to how you can be successful in navigating that program. So Jackie, I'll stop there and allow you to proceed. Thank you very much.
And Jackie, before we give you an opportunity to get started, we have two seriously impressive success stories that we would like to share. And I would like, if Chad and Lamarion are present, if you would go ahead and unmute, share your stories, and then we'll give it back to Jackie to let her unpack the wonderful news that she has to share with us today.
Hey, Virginia.
Well, hi, Chad. How are you? Thank you so much.
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Chad, you gonna let us see those pearly whites?
I don't know how to. I don't see the video option. It just said unmute. So.
Oh, okay. It should be next to that microphone.
It's just the mic. I don't.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
okay. Well, you're good.
Okay.
See, we want to put a face to the success story, so or people aren't going to believe it's possible. You're on mute now, Chad.
Okay, so there we go. I had to join as a panelist.
Oh, okay, excellent, excellent.
Oh gosh, yeah. Thank you for having me, Virginia. Yeah, I went through this process. The first time that I went through it, I was denied. It was before the Biden administration had, I guess, put fewer restrictions on the types of loans and stuff that you could have. But once they did that, I went through the process of having my loans converted into federal loans because they were actually private loans. I had my loans, they were with Navient, and I had consolidated them like a lot of people do when they get out of school because the payments are so expensive. And so I consolidated them into private loans because the amount that you have to pay is a lot less. So, but to go through the public service loan forgiveness program, they have to actually be federal loans. So I converted my loans into federal loans. That took about, at that time, and I don't know what it's like now because there's so many more people doing it, but at that time, and that was, I think, March of this year, it took about 3 to 4 weeks for them to be fully consolidated and converted to Fed loans. And then once they were consolidated and converted into Fed loans, I was able to apply for the public service loan forgiveness. So I submitted my application. When I submitted my application, it took over 3 months for them to approve it. But I had already done some due diligence. So I called Navient before I even started this whole process. And I said, since October of 2007, can you just give me a rough figure? Let me know how many payments I've made. So they actually pulled all of my payments, counted one by one, and pulled into a spreadsheet and sent it to me. And I had made, I think, 126 payments. So they sent that once I submitted the application, Fed loans went to them and they pulled all that information and they counted one by one. And it was more than 120 payments. So they forgave my $60,000 in student loan debt. So yeah, it was a win-win for me. I was excited, but I would tell everybody, if you do not currently have your loans in some type of Fed loan process, either with MOHELA or with Nelnet, or one of the other federal loan service providers, you should be doing that right now. Because you can't even submit the public service loan forgiveness application until you have them converted into Fed loans. Now, if you already have Fed loans, hey, go ahead and submit your application. And I would say go ahead and do it now, because if you wait until October 31st or after October 31st, you won't ever be able to submit again unless the government runs this type of program. If you submit now, you can every year you can just add your payments that you're making and submit them once a year to your federal loan service provider until you've reached the 120 payments. I mean, I've been with Fulton County for 15 years, so I knew that I had made at least 120 payments. And the good thing is they told me that any payments that I've made over 120 payments, the Treasury will cut me a check. So they're going to cut me a check. I even called to verify that once all this was done, and they said, yeah, the Fed loan service provider is not responsible for that, but the Treasury is of the United States. So they will be cutting me a check for whatever how many payments I made over that 120. So I'm just waiting on my check now.
And I'm waiting on the check too, Chad, so you can carry me for a decent lunch.
Yeah, I'll take you to lunch. I'll take you to lunch.
But Chad, thank you very much for sharing. And for all of you guys who are going through this process and hopefully will be successful through this process, you know, Virginia has a survey that's going to be coming out after the class. And we're trying to do a tracker. We want to track how much student loans we have been able to have you guys forgiven during this whole process. You know, kind of what, you know, those candy canes to win your donations. We're trying to track it like that to articulate to the Board of Commissioners how successful this opportunity is, that they've provided us this opportunity to educate you about something completely not related to your job, but show the success that it's bringing to you and how it frees up some income within your respective lives that you could do something different with. You know, whether you want to invest, pay off a loan, don't go buy the red bottom shoes just yet. You know, we still have to get something. Yeah, but don't get the red bottom shoes.
Well, Ken,
but
look,
again,
I will give a piece of advice, just for anybody, just to be proactive. Go ahead and get the federal ID for Fulton County. I think I sent that to Virginia. Go ahead and have that ready for your application. The applications did change because Fed Loans is no longer a federal loan service provider. So the information on the application has changed depending on who your federal loan service provider and who to contact and all that stuff. I mean, and then when you get it all filled out, I mean, God, your team, Alicia, was great. Ken, I mean, she signed my document electronically and sent it right back to me, and I uploaded to Fed Loans, and it was simple. So I don't know if there are other people in your department who are handling this, but Alicia was great. She responded very quickly. I called her, she responded, signed it, sent it back to me, and it was that easy. So
well, thank you very much. And yes, and the HR DNA team not only make sure we get paid every 2 weeks, but they also respond to those kind of things in a timely manner, because they understand the significant impact and all the time-driven items that are associated with it. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Chad. I saw that Lemarian is also joining us, another success story, before we turn it over to Jackie and let Jackie really go through the finer points of all the aspects of the program. Lemarian, if you want to share your experience as well.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me speak, and thank you for doing this for the employees of Fulton County. I'm excited, and I wish I had a story like Chad. I just want to consider mine a blessing. When I started to call and inquire, got online, I looked and it said that I could not get online using the app. So when I got online, when I was trying to log in, it said my account was locked and I couldn't figure out why. So when I called to inquire, they said, well, you don't have an account with us anymore because you have a zero balance. And 13-year-old sitting next to me in the car wondered why I was crying. I said, well, baby, I thought your grandchildren would be paying off mama's student loans. So I was excited. I have a year and a half here at Fulton Sheriff's Office and previous work experience with the DeKalb Sheriff's Office. So I have in federal government. So I've been around public service for about 26 years. And I had paid down quite a bit, and I actually had $33,121.68. Don't forget the 68 and the 68 cents. So I had all that forgiven. And Chad, I will attest to the fact that if you're either going to get a check, or if you had your payments coming out direct deposit, you're going to wake up one morning and have individual deposits for those payments over. So I actually had 17 payments over and got that refund back. So that is a true statement that they will get around to repaying your monies back to you, your overpayments. There is a website, well, Facebook page called Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program Support. And that's where I log in and to hear the stories and the suggestions ideas. It's a very positive information opportunity, but it's public service loan forgiveness support program support. And I encourage anyone, if you're on social media, on Facebook, to join that group and get additional information. And I will say, from a position of being a certified public accountant, if someone is offering to help you get rid of your student loans for a fee, don't do it. There's no cost to have these loans forgiven. It might be a little tedious for doing the application, submitting the application, but don't waste the money to do something that you, in my opinion, that you can do yourself. But loan forgiveness is real. It's what it looks like right here. And I am thankful to not have that $338 a month payment. It makes my life a whole lot better, because that was just one debt I wasn't going to pay for. And I don't know, besides the house, no, that's all I had. But it was a blessing to get rid of that. So hang in there. It is real. Don't take it for a no, take it for not right now, and just keep progressing through, and it will happen.
Well, again, thank you very much, Lamarian. And now that I know you do already have that that extra money in your income, I will be there tomorrow on site. We could, we just meet me at Fuda. You could just carry me over to Fuda. I promise I'm not gonna get the big plate. I'll get the small plate.
We're going to Ruth Chris Steakhouse.
Ruth Chris. Okay, I want an invitation too then.
Say less, Lamarian. But thank you very much for sharing. So it looks like we're up to $93,000 and counting. So and all the stories and all the insight and all the suggestive areas of support are very valuable. And like you said, within our Fulton County community of employees, there are other individuals you could reach out to and get support. You don't have to know Chad. You don't have to know Lamarian. You could reach out to them. You could find them in the email list. Just reach out, because that's the point of trying to bring all of us together to share information. But I know Jackie would tell you that you guys stole all her thunder and that she has nothing else to say, but she at least has to say one more thing in order for me to justify paying her for this session. So Jackie, I think this is really the point in time, after having these great testimonials from our employees, to walk us through the step-by-step approach, pros, cons, all the tidbits of information that you can share with those other individuals. It looked like we're up to 136 other individuals who are viewing this session right now. So thank you very much, Jackie, for joining us. If I'll say that right now, just in case I have to jump off to go to another meeting with the county manager, but I might be going back and forth as you present. Again, thank all of you guys for participating. Thank you very much again, Virginia and the employee development team, for making this happen. And Jackie, truly and truly, the floor is yours.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yes. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Virginia. And Chad and Lamarian, you guys are the heroes this morning. Like, you're almost about to bring tears to my eyes listening to that. I mean, I'm sorry, I have one last question for you. I guess, Chad, go first. Like, how did you feel when you realized your loans were forgiven?
I mean, oh God, it was probably like Lamarian. I was like, oh my God, my whole life is going to change, because, the problem with these student loans is, the interest rate is so high, it's doubled my mortgage interest rate. I felt like I'd paid on them for so many years and never put a dent in them. I just felt like I'd be paying for them for the rest of my life, and like Lamarian, I was paying, almost $400 a month. And, grad school put a huge dent in in the loans for me. But I don't know. I was a little shocked. I think it kind of took me a little time to think, is this real? I mean, I just want to know from Lamarian, how long did it take you to get your refund? I just want to, because I haven't gotten mine yet. I just want to know, where am I going to get these checks? Because I couldn't do automatic withdrawal. I had to pay them out.
I wasn't even looking for it. I was just so glad not to have it for the future. And it took me from the time I got the letter in the mail till about the time I started seeing the direct deposits, about a month.
Okay, because for me, I was kind of like, like you, Lemurian, like I was waiting and waiting and waiting for it to happen. And then I just logged into my Fed loan and it just said zero balance. And I was like, wait a second, is this for real? Like, I didn't want to get too excited. And then the next day they sent me a letter through the Fed loan platform. And it said, congratulations, you have met the qualifications and your loans are forgiven. And, and $60,000, that's a huge, I mean, my God, I kind of wanted to cry like Lemurian.
That is so awesome, Chad, and congratulations, like huge change in your life, and that is amazing. So Lemurian, how did you feel when you knew those loans were forgiven?
It wasn't real. When I got locked out my account, I kept trying to get in, and I stayed on hold with Fed loans, I know, an hour. And she said, well, you don't have a balance. I'm like, well, no, I'm going to give you my social again because I have a balance. I'm trying to get it, wiped out. And I called and got the letter the next day. So it was amazing that it was just that one debt, because we as a people and we as a country are loaded with debt. And I'm trying to train up my child and live in a way that we're just not in bondage with debt. And so to have that amount wiped away, that it was amazing.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. I'm just so happy for both of you. And our goal today, you guys, is to have hundreds more Fulton County employees to feel like Chad and Lemurian. That is our goal. We're gonna go over the basics today. We'll answer whatever questions you have. And Lemurian, you mentioned that support group. Well, Fulton County is part of your support group too. I am part of your support group. So you got a lot of people pulling for you that want you to see your day of getting your loan forgiven. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
And Jackie, there is a question in the chat that asks, do you think with the consideration that's being put in place right now, if for-profit organization may receive some consideration for forgiveness? I'm not sure if you have any of that information or not.
I do, and I'll answer that real quick. So if you work for a for-profit organization, you can still be on one of the income-driven repayment plans. So that's fine. If you're on one of those regular income-driven repayment plans, if you're not public service, it's 20 years instead of 10. So it's double. That's why working in public service is such a huge benefit. It cuts your time to forgiveness in half. But if you work for just a regular employer, it will take you 20 years instead of 10, and you can get all the information on those at like studentaid.gov. So, all right. So I want to make sure everyone is seeing my screen here. Thumbs up, Virginia?
Yes.
Okay, everyone's seeing the screen. Okay,
so excellent. Yes. Okay,
so let's go ahead and get into it. So just a disclaimer, everything that we're talking about today is for education and information purposes only. I will give you direct resources. I will give you URLs to websites that are going to help you. But like Lemurian mentioned, you don't really need to pay to get this information. It's out there and you're going to get everything you need today. Now, the big announcement. So before we get into public service loan forgiveness, there was a huge announcement that was, it was expected, but there were some things in there that was just such a big change and great news for a lot of student loan borrowers. So I'm going to step you through that. So there was 3 parts to it. The first part is that the student loan payment pause will go on until December 31st. And we knew, most people in the industry knew that they were going to extend it. There was just too much influx. There was the transition from Fed loan to MHELA, just all these things going on. It would not have made sense. So now 0% interest and no payments are due on your student loans through 12/31/22. So that was the first one. The second one, this was the really, really big one. If you got a Pell Grant, if you received a Pell Grant, your student loan debt will be forgiven up to $20,000. And if you didn't get a Pell Grant, you will be forgiven up to $10,000. So that is huge. They do have some income limits on this. So, and the income limits, more than likely, they haven't clarified this, but this is true for most programs. They're going to go by your adjusted gross income. And I'll dig into that a little bit more. So for instance, if you're making, $130,000, if you contribute to certain accounts, you're going to knock that down and your AGI might be 125,000. But those numbers are 125,000 if you are single, and for a married couple, it's $250,000. And the last piece of the announcement was that they have a new income-driven repayment plan that they're going to be starting. It's not out there yet, but they're working on all of these. So most of the income-driven programs, they're based on like 10% of your discretionary income or your adjusted gross income. But if you have undergrad loans, they're going to cut that to 5%. And there were some other nuances around that. So if you want to go in and take a look at, let's see, yeah, the URL is at the bottom there for this announcement where they go into a little bit more detail, but it's just at studentaid.gov, and you will hear that URL throughout this entire presentation. But studentaid.gov/debt relief announcement. You can get all the details, and you can sign up to get updates as they release new information about these three programs or these three pieces of that announcement. Now, let's keep going here. Okay. So this I just pulled this morning. They came out with a little bit of additional information, okay? So if you go to the site now, there's really nothing you can do, but they're saying that in early October, there will be a simple application that's launched. So you wanna look for that. Once completed, borrowers can expect relief within 4 to 6 weeks, yay. And then you would fill out an application before November the 15th to receive relief before the payment pause. Now, the thing is, obviously, for some people, the 10K may cover it all. The 20K may cover it all. But some people will still have loans left over where this forgiveness program is still very important. And if you are really close to forgiveness anyway, you want to go ahead and finish out that process to know that it is gone. Because you see here, we're looking at a couple of months maybe before, that big chunk is forgiven. So for anyone that happens to be in default, I don't want you to lose hope, okay? There is something called the Fresh Start Program. They announced it back in April and really haven't released a whole lot about it. But just so you know, there's going to be some additional provisions for you to get out of default, to get on a regular loan, or to get your loan back in good standing, and to get on a proper repayment plan. So there's a path for you. I just don't want you to get frustrated or give up just because your loans are in default. So there's help for you too. And this presentation will be valuable as well once you get those loans out of default. Now, I do see some Q&As in the chat here. Let's see what we got. Virginia, were there any questions in there that you think is worth answering at this point?
Yes, there was one question. If your loan provider change, how would you find the correct loan provider?
Okay, we are going to cover that, but generally the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program was with FedLoan. That's who you were with. They managed that program. In July, they started moving all of those loans over to MOHELA. And there's actually an interim company that might be doing consolidations if you had to consolidate. And we will go over all of that. But the all keeper of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program is MOHELA, but you may have seen some transition over the last few months. So we'll dive into that as well. All right, well, let's take a look at our agenda and what we're going to cover today. Again, you can ask any questions that you want. This process has been quite confusing, and I am here today to help clear it all up. So these are the broad areas that we're going to cover. Okay, so PSLF, I always get tongue-tied on that, but it had a rough start. So I'm going to give you just a little history on that. This waiver, most of this is going to be talking about the waiver. It ends on October 31st, 2022. So we have exactly 2 months to get this going. We're going to talk about the loan types, the repayment plans, because those are an important piece of that waiver. The Fulton County process. Chad was saying that working with, I believe it was Alicia, the process was pretty easy. So Fulton County, being your employer, have gone through great lengths to make their part as easy as possible. So that's not going to get you hung up, but I'm going to step you through the process for that. And then we've got your next steps for loan forgiveness, because we want to get you to the finish line. We have a follow-up session on September the 13th. So we're going to do sort of like a check-in with you. We're going to give you a chance to say, share what issues that you've been having. How's your progress going? So we want to stick with you on this. So those are the things that we're going to cover. So first of all, the whole spirit of the public service loan forgiveness was a very noble one. And there was like 2 main pieces. It was to encourage and reward individuals that pursue public service careers. Your firemen, your policemen, your teachers, people that work for federal, state, and local government, all of you guys are public servants that are doing good for the world. And the second one, it was designed to lighten your load as you sort of navigate these federal, student loan, this burden that you have. So you guys are working full-time as professionals, whether it's for nonprofit or government. This program was designed to lighten your load. And if anyone has not told you yet this month, this week, this year, let me be the first one to say thank you. Thank you for your public service. You deserve to be able to take advantage of this program, to get the forgiveness that you were promised. And I'm hoping to be able to do that today, but make sure that you ask your questions if something doesn't make sense, if you want clarification on something. That's the purpose of today. So the very beginning of public service loan forgiveness. So if you were rejected before, I think Chad mentioned he was rejected, you weren't alone. So let me give you some numbers. So the public service loan forgiveness program started in 2007. And so by the time 2017, 18 hit, that's when the first applications were coming in. Okay, there were over 54,000 applications that came in between 2018 and 2019. Now, of that 54,000, only 661 were approved, 1%. That's horrible, you guys. And 52,000, 99% of the applications were rejected. So you saw headlines like this, right? Every news outlet was publishing this information from the Government Accountability Office that said only 1% of public servants that applied for this program was approved. So this was the start of this whole program. It got very negative press. Now, I wanted to drill into Georgia. So fast forward a little bit, this time frame is from November 2020 to April 2022. So how do you think Georgia did? Okay. So Georgia had a lot of applications as well. So Georgia had 336 applications, 336,000 public service workers with student loan debt. Okay, that's a lot, right? Then only 4,430 public service workers in Georgia had debt. Of the 4,400, that only represents 1% of people that had student loan debts in Georgia that got canceled. Only 1%. So the same as the national, basically. So 16%, however, 16% of workers in Georgia were approved with using that, it's called the PSLF form now, but it was formerly called the Employer Verification Form or Certification Form. So these are the numbers in Georgia. Those weren't very encouraging either. So why were so many people rejected in the first place? That's the big question. So there's a few things that I would attribute to that. So borrowers was on the wrong loan. That was a really big one, because you've got FFEL loans that didn't qualify. You got Perkins loan that didn't, you have all these loans that didn't really qualify by the PSLF, okay? They were on the wrong payment plan. You know, you have to be on an income-driven repayment plan, or you could be on the standard, but you know, you have the extended loan programs. You had all these different repayment plans and people didn't really know. So a lot of them were in the wrong repayment plan. Then you had, I keep moving my bar here because it's blocking. Okay, so there's lack of clear communication. That was probably the biggest thing. And then finally, it was just confusing and it was very inefficient to borrowers. Now there's some much stronger language that you can use. People just didn't trust the process anymore. They didn't have confidence. And these quotes about it being confusing and inefficient, that was from the Government Accountability Office and with that report. Now, let's just
Jackie, excuse me, before you get to this slide, there are about 5 to 7 Q&As that I'm going to ask Brenda Whitehead to assist and give you an opportunity to respond. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do those because this is a good slide to pause on. So let's just say the PSLF process was quite a mess at first. So what's your questions, Virginia? Or you said, who was going to ask the questions? I will handle them right now.
Okay, sorry, I was mute. This is Brenda Whitehead. Okay.
Hey, Brenda, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm good. What questions you got for me?
Okay, you have some questions in the Q&A here.
Okay.
If you have not made any payments while student loan payment requirements have been paused due to the COVID pandemic, do these months count towards the 120 payment requirement?
Yes, they do. And great question. So I will dive into that. So during the payment pause, it was 0% interest, $0 payments. Even though the payments were $0, they still counted. So that's the good news. So great question.
Okay. Someone else wanted to know if you would show the default number again.
Oh, yeah. You can go ahead and ask questions and I'll flip back to that slide.
Okay. Our next one, how do you find your former employer ID number to sign up?
Okay. Virginia, I don't know if you have someone that can put that employer ID number. I was able to just find it online for Fulton County, but if you, or maybe someone from HR like has the number.
Yes, I'll drop it in the chat.
Okay, and I need to circle back, Brenda. So when someone was asking for the default number, were they asking for the default phone number?
They said the default number again.
Okay, I think they mean this number.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, so if your student loans are in default, again, don't give up. They have this Fresh Start program. This is the number that you can call, and it's part of the Department of Education, 1-800-621-3115 if you want to talk about your defaulted account. There's several different options. They're adding some more provisions to help get you out of default. Okay.
All right. Okay.
What else you got?
Now, let's see. Next we have, I am currently with Navient, but in an interest-only repayment plan. Do I need to change to another repayment plan to qualify for PSLF? Also, I am new to Fulton County, 8 months, and previously with Los Angeles County for 19 years. Can I do both employers?
Oh, that is such a good question. I'm going to cover that. Yes, you don't have to be at the same employer. As long as every employer that you want to count as an on-time payment, as long as the employer was either government, qualified government agency, or a qualified nonprofit agency. So LA County, I think you said, Fulton County, both of those are employers. Now you have to go back to LA County. You do have to get the form filled out, which I'm going to walk you through that as well. So very good question. And what's the first part of that question?
I'm currently with Navient, but in an interest-only repayment plan. Do I need to change to another repayment plan?
Yeah, it sounds like with Navient, I wasn't sure if they were handling student loans, but more than likely, it sounds like you need to consolidate. So I'm going to show you where to go on the studentaid.gov website, where you can see what type of loans you have. And I'm going to specify those loans. More than likely, you will need to consolidate. And I will do that first and then go back and do the employer certification forms, which they're now called the PSLF forms. So I'm going to walk you through the steps, but your step is going to be step 1, consolidate into the right loan. More than likely, that's going to kick you to MOHELA. And then step 2 is going to be get your verification forms done through both employers. It doesn't have to be consistently with the same employer, nor does it have to be consecutive, like all 120 payments done in a row. It could be you worked somewhere for 2 years, you got that, you went to private sector, you came back and you worked for a government agency and you got the rest there. So what else you got for me?
Okay. Chad mentioned that at one point he didn't have enough payments to qualify for forgiveness, but every year he submitted an application until he reached the 120 payments. Will this be in effect going forward if you've already put in an application, but may not be at quite 120 payments yet? Or does the program totally end at the end of December?
No, it doesn't end. Okay, the main thing you got to get done before October 31st, which is the waiver deadline, is you have to make sure the loans are consolidated, but you can continue acquiring your months of payments. So when you consolidate, you may only have, 50, payments that are qualifying. Well, you're already consolidated, so you just continue racking up those months, 12 months each year. They recommend you do the form once a year and you're fine. So you don't have to have all your payments in by October 31st, but you do need to make sure you're on the right loan, the right repayment plan, and you have consolidated. And we'll dig into that a little bit too.
Brenda,
Yes.
there are a number of responses in the chat. So let's give Jackie an opportunity to go through the presentation, and a number of these may be answered, and then we'll come back to the Q&A.
Yes.
Yeah, those were all wonderful questions, you guys. Keep them coming. Most of those will be covered in the presentation, but if you still have more questions or something's not clear, keep them coming, keep them coming. So this is the big do-over. This is the answer to all of those problems, all of those issues, is this temporary waiver. And basically here are, I'm going to give you a list of the provisions of the waiver, but basically it said the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, temporary waiver. It allows borrowers like yourself to receive credit for past payments that would not have otherwise qualified. So again, this waiver ends on October 31st. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to have all your 120 payments in, but it does matter in terms of getting your loan consolidated, making sure you're on the right loan and the right repayment program. So let's dig into some of those. And again, you'll see this a lot. I just want to remind you that, this waiver does end on October 31st. So let's get it in. There's been a little talk about, this being extended. It possibly will, but it was not included in the most recent announcements. So the primary source that you are going to be using. So let's say we're done today and you have questions and you want to dig into the source. There's two main places. It's going to be studentaid.gov/PSLF. And then also MOHELA. Again, MOHELA is the official servicer of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Most people were with FedLoan. FedLoan got out of the business. They said they don't want to do this anymore. They're done. And MOHELA is the new player in the game when it comes to public service loan forgiveness. So you'll hear these two mentioned throughout the presentation. So it is working. It was kind of funny that Lamarian mentioned the Facebook group, but there's a lot of Facebook groups that are dedicated to the public service loan forgiveness. Plus you have Reddit, and there's probably other groups as well, but I follow many of them. And here's what I've been seeing. Look at these loans have been forgiven. There's that big one for $120,000. There's people with more than that. If you're a doctor or a lawyer, or where you had to have, a lot of education, even beyond undergrad, your loans could look really crazy right now. So I just want to show you that it is working. These were all from August, all from different groups where the people are saying, hey, I got my loans forgiven. This is inspiring. So I want to show you that it is working. Plus, we had Chad and Lemarian from Fulton County that shared their story today as well. So here are the basics. So the big thing that I get asked, let's say you get this money forgiven, do I have to pay tax on that money? Okay, you do not. This public service loan forgiveness added that provision where whatever you're getting forgiven, you don't have to pay taxes on that. It used to be where you did, and that was called like the tax bomb, and of course nobody liked that. So you have to be working for a qualified employer. You already are. Check the box on that one. You work for Fulton County. You have a direct federal loan. I put direct in quotes because that's just not the description. That is how it appears in the name of the loan. It must be a direct federal loan. Or for this waiver, you need to consolidate into a direct loan. So if you have one of those old FFEL loans or Perkins loans, or even like Parent Plus loans, any of those, you must be in a loan where when you go to studentaid.gov, you log into your account, it needs to say direct and then whatever the loan is after that. The next one is you must make 120 qualifying payments. That is equivalent to about 10 years. But remember, you don't have to consistently work for the same employer, nor does it have to be consecutive. And then the last part is you must apply for it. I think earlier with all that mess, the biggest problem was that people didn't know they had to apply for it. They just thought, hey, the Department of Education has my information. They have my number of payments. It should be done. No, you had to apply for it. And that caused a lot of problems. So these are the basics of the program. Now, qualifying employers. Now, in case Fulton County is not your only employer, I wanted to clarify what is a qualifying employer. So you do have to be either full-time or 30 hours, and you can do this across multiple employers. Now, if you already work full-time for Fulton County, you probably wouldn't have another employer. It doesn't really matter. But let's say you work 15 hours for one employer part-time, and you got another employer where you work 20 or 30 hours a week, okay? You can combine those as long as it equals 30 hours a week. So, these days, some people have, maybe 2 part-time jobs or whatever. So just keep that in mind. Now, this is what qualifying employees are. Federal government. This includes the military. So thank you for your service if you served in the military. It could be state government, local government, including county, city. And again, you guys are Fulton County employees, so that's where you fall. Tribal government. And then if you're working for a nonprofit 501c3. So these are all the ones that qualify. And in most cases, if you're government or nonprofit, you can find the EIN numbers that you need to fill out the employer verification form. Usually those EIN numbers are readily available. You can Google them, you can find them or whatever, or you can contact your former employer. If it's a current employer, all you have to do is, get with HR or just look at your W-2, your paycheck. The EIN number is on that. So these are the qualifying employers. So remember, it doesn't have to just be Fulton County. The person that said they only been at Fulton County for 8 months, and you in prior years you worked for another government agency, you can count that too. Okay. The process is basically the same. All right. So your past payments count. This is probably one of the biggest provisions of this waiver, okay? So payments made before the waiver are now eligible. Before they said, oh, you were on the wrong loan, too bad, those payments don't count. And if you consolidate, we're gonna start you all back over, okay? So that was very, very discouraging. Now they are going to count those payments. So I'm going to move my tool there. Okay, so these payments are going to count even if you were denied forgiveness in the past, which I believe Chad said that he was, even if you were on the wrong loan. The only exception is the Parent Plus loan. And I have some tips for you if you have a Parent Plus loan, because that is a source of other confusion. So if you're on the wrong, if you were denied for forgiveness, if you were on the wrong type of loan, if you were on the wrong repayment plan, those are still going to count. If you made late payments or not in full, that could possibly count. And then lastly, if you were even made payments as far back as 2007, remember the program started in 2007. So you can go all the way back to 2007 and possibly have payments count. So there is hope. All right, so what about the payment pause? This question was asked, and it was a very good question. So during the payment pause, it was $0 payments and 0 interest. They started that back in April 2020. So it goes until December 2022. So that's almost 2 years of no payments. Okay, so those $0 payments, they do count as part of your 120 PSLF qualifying payments. So that's good. Now, if you paid during the pause, you may request a refund. So Chad and Lamarian talked about these refunds. So if you were on the right loan, and that's the caveat, if you're on the correct loan, if you're already on a direct loan and you made some payments since April 2020, you can ask for a refund and get your money back. Because really with public service loan forgiveness, it really doesn't matter how much you have left at the end, it's going to be forgiven. So making the extra payments really don't get you very far, or it doesn't really help you. So if you feel like, oh, I shouldn't have made those payments, I'm going to request a refund. You just go to your loan servicer, which at this point it probably is MOHELA, and you ask for that refund. And from what I understand, the way they do the refunds is they take every month that you made an overpayment and they cut you these small checks, or if you had direct deposit, they deposit it back into your account. Now, no matter how large the remaining balance, you are going to get forgiven after 120 payments. That's the really important part. It's like whether you have $10,000 left at the end of 120 payments or 150,000, it's forgiven. That's how the program works. So just keep that in mind, that no matter how big that balance is, after 10 years, it's going to get forgiven as long as you follow the process of this program. So other federal loans get help too. So these are the 2 loans that keep coming up that people have, and they were, used a lot back in the day. So again, you have to consolidate to a direct loan. Direct has to be in the name of the loan. So even if you had a Perkins loan or an FFEL loan, those can now be consolidated to a direct loan, making you eligible for this program. And they will count the payments you made while you were on these 2 loans. Now I'm going to talk about the Parent Plus loans. And after that, I will pause for just a minute and take a few more questions, Brenda, if that's okay. So with Parent Plus loans, most loans out there are direct loans, okay? But the Parent Plus loans exist as well. And I feel like there's not a lot written about Parent Plus loans and not a lot of information, which means that there is confusion, okay? So these Parent Plus loans, they have been, very confusing with the waiver. And here are just a few points of clarification to help anyone that has questions around the Parent Plus loans. So these loans don't qualify for the income-driven repayment plans, but you can consolidate to a direct Parent Plus loan. So again, direct is in quotes because that needs to be in the name. Now, once you consolidate to a direct Parent Plus loan, you can enroll. The only income-driven repayment plan you're eligible for when you have this direct Parent Plus loan is the income contingent repayment plan. So you're a little restricted there, but again, having that direct loan gives you all kinds of extra benefits that you would not get otherwise. Now, the direct Parent Plus loans, they are not eligible to receive additional months of payment on their own, like going back. So just keep that in mind. This is the only loan that they won't go back and count those payments. However, if you consolidate it with other loans, with other direct loans, let's say you got a Parent Plus loan and you went to school yourself and you have a regular, let's say an FFEL loan or some other type of loan. So you can receive payment credits for that other loan, but you're not going to receive the payment credit for the Parent Plus loan. So just keep that in mind. Again, that's a little not as generous as some of the other pieces, but for you to be able to be on a direct loan, any direct loan, and move from that Parent Plus loan, it's going to be a plus for you. But I did want to make this part clear. So Brenda, why don't we just take a few questions and then we'll continue on with the presentation.
Okay, that sounds good. You have some good ones in here.
Okay.
If you're still in college but not started paying your loan, can the loans you have still be forgiven?
Yeah, so the question was, if you're still in college, what about your loans then? Even if you're still in school, it's going to look at loans that were taken out, I think July. If it was taken out by July of 2022, that's what they're going to count. So obviously, let's say you're a senior in college, those loans are dispersed typically by semester. So that's considered a loan. Even if you're not paying it back, they consider that like being in deferment or whatever, but that should count as having a loan. So you should be included in that $10,000 or $20,000 forgiveness. Obviously, you're not making payments, it's in deferment. I don't think, like, for the purpose of the public service loan forgiveness, as far as an on-time payment, I don't think it counts. That counts while you're still in school, but as far as the forgiveness, it should. Again, that announcement just happened last week, so there's still a lot of information coming out on that. And I don't know that we have enough clarity around that, but they did say that as long as you have that loan by July of 2022, it should count for the $10,000 and the $20,000 forgiveness. It probably won't count for public service loan forgiveness because I don't know if they call that deferment, or I think you have to be out of school for that to be the case. And that may be something that is on studentaid.gov as a frequently asked question. But right now, that's kind of the way I understand it. So what else you got, Brenda?
Okay. If you work for an agency you're no longer employed for 10 years, are you still eligible to apply?
Yes, you can. I'll be covering that in my presentation as well, because unfortunately, there has been some people that their former employer is just not that responsive and not, helping to get, these forms done so that you can get your forgiveness. But the short answer is that you don't have to be currently employed or employed at all to be able to get this forgiveness. And this is a part of the waiver, because in the past, that wasn't the case. But we will dive into that a little bit more. That's a great question.
Jackie, this is Chad. I'm sorry. I forgot to mention that when I was going through this process, one thing that I did find out is because, I came to Fulton County in June of 2007. So everyone needs to know that the only payments that are applicable for this program are October 2007 and forward. So if you made payments before October 2007, which I did, because I've been paying on them, since 2001, none of those count. It only starts at October 2007. So if you want to call, if you're trying to get your loans consolidated, but you're just interested in how many payments you've made, like Navient did with me, they can only start from October 2007 for Fulton County. So
yeah, thank you, Chad. That is so true. So the 2007, that was when the program started. So they're not going to count anything prior to 2007. So just keep that in mind. If it's after 2007, you're good to go. Okay, thank you, Chad. I forgot you were on there, Chad. So if there's anything else that you think is helpful, so keep the questions coming. Keep the questions coming. We're going to continue with the presentation here. Consolidating loans. So let me give you some information on that. So remember, only direct loans are eligible for PSLF. If you are not on a direct loan, you have to consolidate. Okay. So if I mentioned these two loans before, but if you have one of those old FFEL loans or Perkins loans, you must consolidate. They're not going to recognize those loans as being part of the public service loan program where you can get forgiveness. Okay, so consolidation. You can consolidate your loans, and once we get to the end of this presentation, I'm gonna go live and I'm gonna sort of navigate the studentaid.gov website. And we're gonna look at where all this stuff is. Okay, so when you're ready to consolidate, you simply go to studentaid.gov. and then you go under manage loans and then consolidate my loans. From what I've been hearing, it's taken anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks to get the consolidation done. They may be getting more efficient, but just keep in mind, it's not done instantly. And there could be a little bit of a waiting game once you actually initiate that consolidation. Then if you have multiple direct loans, you can move those into a single loan. Okay, and here's the big part, Chad, hopefully this happened to you too. Once you consolidate the loans, again, they may have different timeframes. You may have made some payments in 2012 and other payments in 2008. They will use your oldest payment that you have. The old program does not do the oldest. They would reset your payments once you consolidate it and you started at 0. Now, when you consolidate all of your loans, they're going to take the oldest payment. Now, the only exception was on that prior slide, and that was the Parent Plus loans, but everything else, they're going to use the oldest payment that you made, which is advantageous to you as the borrower. Okay, and then lastly, there's a lot of changes and transition going on. So if you happen to see Aidvantage, that is just the company that is processing the consolidation. So that's a temporary stay. So remember when I said it'll be like 4 to 6 weeks after you initiate the consolidation. The companies that's doing those consolidations is Aidvantage. So you start the consolidation, Aidvantage puts it in the mix, get the consolidation taken care of. They're going to kick it over to MOHELA. MOHELA should be the last stop in terms of who has your loans, okay? Let's keep going. So choose an income-driven repayment plan. Now, let me just make clear. So for public service loan forgiveness, you can be on the standard plan, but it really doesn't make any sense because the standard plan is for 10 years and they set your payment so that you pay it off in 10 years. You don't really want that. You want to pay the lowest amount you possibly can so that you can get the most amount forgiven at the end of your 10-year period. So here is, so it only really makes sense to be on an income-driven repayment plan. So the payments can be as low as 0. Like right now, during COVID, our payments have been 0. If you're unemployed, your payment might be $0. So there's a number of reasons why you may not have an income and your payment is $0. So as you make changes, especially like going back to like 2020, or even at the end of 2019, a lot of people are losing their job. So while you don't have a job, you should definitely make sure you're updating your information so that your payments are based on your current income, or you're taking advantage of, the provision that's in place right now. So you can use something called the Student Loan Simulator. It's at studentaid.gov. You can compare income-driven repayment plans. If you log onto your account, they will use your numbers that's in there, but you don't have to log onto your account to go through the simulator, and that I'll show you that as well. But it just gives you, okay, here are the 6 different loans that you will be eligible for. Here's what your payments would be. And you plug in all kinds of information like how many people are in your family, you plug in your salary, you plug in, any type of like pre-tax deductions, again, which lowers that number, that income number they're looking at. You plug in, if you want the PSLF program to be taken into consideration. So all of those things. The loan simulator will give you an idea of, okay, which is the best income-driven repayment plan that I should get. Then you've got direct Parent Plus loans, remember, only qualify for the income contingent repayment plan. So not a whole lot of options there. Then these are the 4, you guys are probably familiar with these, but these are the 4 different income-driven repayment plans. There is the ICR, the income contingent, the income base, the IBR, the pay-as-you-earn, and then you've got the revised pay-as-you-earn. So these are the 4 main ones. Again, if you go through the simulator, it will show you based on the information that you put in, here's what your payments will be. So this is where you definitely want to choose an income-driven repayment plan. Now, this is just a picture of the student loan simulator. The QR code there is live. So if you open the camera in your smartphone, you can scan it. It'll take you right to the loan simulator at studentaid.gov. And again, you can do it by signing on, or they will also let you use this and you don't sign on. You just have to manually plug in certain information. Did you have something, Chad?
Yeah, while this is on my mind, I just wanted to tell everybody, when you're going through this process, you kind of have to be strategic about it too, especially when you're considering a repayment program. So let me just tell you what I did. So the reason that I went to Navient first to find out how many payments I had already made, because based on their answer, it let me know what repayment program was going to be best for me. So I already knew that I had made 120 payments. So on your application, there's a checkbox that you can select that says, during this process, do you want to continue making your payments, or do you want to still have them basically in deferment or forbearance until this process is over? Well, I already knew that I had made at least 120 payments. So I said, I checked, keep them in, deferment. I don't want to pay them until this process is over, because I didn't want to start making payments that I would eventually have to be reimbursed for, because I knew that this was going to, hopefully work for me. But there's also the graduated repayment program. So the graduated repayment program, it starts out at a smaller payment and then it kind of gets bigger. If you know that you've made 111 payments, and you know that you're going to make those before that payment actually escalates, I would say do graduated repayment, because it's going to be the least amount of money that you're going to have to pay, at the time. And then once you've reached the 120, they'll be forgiven and you will never have to pay that higher amount. So it's kind of strategic. So that's why it's really important to kind of get that information and be proactive before you do all this information and submit all this stuff to decide on what kind of repayment program you want, if you're trying to keep your payments under control, without having to go back and pay, like I was, like a $400 payment a month, because the graduated repayment program, I think it started out at like $325 for me, which would have been, so much better if I had made, close to the number of payments that I needed before they would have been forgiven, and I had to start repaying at a higher amount. So anyway,
so Chad, I have a question about the graduated one, because it was my understanding that was not a valid repayment plan type for public service loan forgiveness. So you're saying you were on that?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's changed, but on my application, when I was filling it out, it asked, like, what kind of payment program do I want to be a part of? And graduated was one of them. So, and that was, but obviously that was still Fed loans. So I don't know.
I was about to say, were you doing that? Were you on that graduated payment plan before you consolidate? Like after you consolidated, did you still be graduated?
This was when I was going through the consolidation process. When I was consolidating them to Fed loans, they were like, well, what kind of payments do you want to make? This was Fed loans. Now they're not a servicer anymore, but I don't know how Mohila and Nelnet and all of those others do. But they asked me when I was going through this consolidation process as a part of the application, what kind of payment plan do you want to be on? And the graduated was the least expensive for me. So, and I knew I'd already made the number of payments. So I was just hoping that it would be forgiven before I had to start making payments.
Yeah. And I think, and this is, for everybody that's on the call, this is just one thing you want to double check. It's my understanding that now Chad had all these other payments already racked up, so he was good, okay? But I don't think the graduated plan, like they'll serve it up to you. They will offer it to you, because when I used the student loan simulator, it gave me like 12 different plans. Well, really only 4 of them were valid for the public service loan forgiveness. And I'll log on, I'll show you guys this, but it will tell you this is great for public service loan forgiveness, or this one is not, but it'll serve it up to you. So I would always ask the question, does this qualify for public service loan forgiveness? That is the question you want to make sure. I can tell you for sure those 4 income-driven repayment plans, those definitely count. With the graduated, I'm not sure. Even the regular one, the standard repayment plan, that counts too. but it's not the best in terms of like going for public service loan forgiveness. So double check on that, please. Chad, you know, he's been through the process. He may know. I thought that it didn't, but again, we're not all knowing, but I do want to just make sure that you're double checking on something that we're not quite sure about. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Chad. So when you go on and you want to do the simulator, just go to manage loans. All right. So tips for income-driven repayment plan. So you must certify each year. Is that right, Chad? I think that's right. You guys certify or minimum of once a year. You don't.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, great. Payments tied to your income and not the loan balance. So whether you have $150,000 or $300,000 worth of loans, they're just looking at your income and they're using that formula. Okay. So some people will say, should I pay extra towards my loans? Normally, for every other loan that I know of, is typically a good idea. When you're going for forgiveness, that's not necessarily the case, because no matter what, whatever's left is going to get forgiven. And it is based on your adjusted gross income. If you have not heard this term before, this is different than, you know, oh, my salary is $80,000 a year. You can get that much lower if you make contributions to your retirement account or do a few other things. It can lower your adjusted gross income. These adjustments are made, and that is the number that the public service loan forgiveness is tied to, part of it anyway. So lower AGI means lower payments on your income-driven repayment plan. So that could be the benefit when if you're looking at like an extended loan, that again, we're not quite sure if that counts, but if you're looking at that versus the income-driven payment, it just depends. The income-driven payments may work out even better for you. So here, I'm going to step you through a couple of slides that will show you ways that you can get your adjusted gross income down so that your payments for income-driven payment plan is lower, and you're going to get like double benefits on some of these. So if you make contributions to a 401A, which you guys have access to, traditional 401A, your traditional 457B, which you get an employer match for those, your HSA, your health savings account, or flexible spending account, those things reduce your AGI. Then a traditional IRA that has nothing to do with your company, you do that on your own, but if you contribute to that, that is going to lower your AGI. So these are just 4 big ones right here. So let's look at, now remember, lower AGI is lower income-driven payment. So I put this together the last time I was at Fulton County, we looked at this too, and I'm like, oh, this is perfect. So lowering your AGI. So this is just showing, let's say for instance, somebody made $60,000 a year. That's your gross salary, right? But you took the company match, okay? Fulton County matches 6% plus 2%, and your portion is roughly 8%, which would be $4,800. So just by getting the match from Fulton County for these retirement plans, it's going to reduce your AGI to $55,200, and you're getting extra money from Fulton County. Okay, so you get like double benefit. So let's take that further, and I'm going to show you the difference. So when I was talking about the loan simulator, these are the results that come up. So I just decided, again, I'm sticking with this $60,000 salary. I just made some assumptions down there at the bottom that, you know, you had $50,000 worth of loans, you're a single person and so forth. So I just chose the pay as you earn. So if you made a salary of $60,000 and you didn't contribute to retirement, you didn't do anything to bring down your pre-tax contributions, which I showed on the other page. So they're saying my monthly payments would be $339, and the $339 to $453, that's because I put in a 3% salary increase. So that's what the difference is. It's saying it'll be paid off in 10 years, July 2031, and it's showing the total amount that would be paid and the amount that would be forgiven. Now I did the same thing, except I said, okay, what if I make these pre-tax contributions and I bring my AGI down to $55,000? Same exact thing. I put in the same assumptions. Well, that took the payment down to $299, and more would be forgiven, and I would have paid out less. So just looking at that again, you have $299 with the lower AGI would be your payments, or $339, which is a little bit higher, if you didn't make any retirement contributions and you didn't lower your AGI. So that's a $39 a month difference. It could be a lot more when you think about other ways you can get your AGI down. And then over a year's time, over the total amount of time, you will have paid about $5,500 less by having a lower AGI. So these are just some little nuances that can help you out, because I will take 40 extra bucks in my pocket every month for doing the same thing, you know, any day of the week. So just other notes about the waiver, and then Brenda will take some more questions. So the other notes about the waiver is that it does not include private loans. So unfortunately, if you have refinanced your loans with a private lender, places like SoFi, you know, a bank, a credit union, something like that, those are private loans that don't count, okay? The public service does not need to be consecutive in order to count for PSLF. So the person that was saying they previously worked in LA or for the government in LA, you can use that. Okay, you can count that. It doesn't have to be consecutive. It doesn't have to be the same employer. Their process for getting the form completed might be a little bit different than Fulton County, but definitely go back and get yourself credit for that after you consolidate. So you can get forgiveness even if you're not employed by a qualifying employer at the time of the application and forgiveness. So we had that question. So even if you're not working for a qualified public service employer, that's okay. If you have your 100 and you think you have your 120 months, or if you just want to make sure you keep track of it and you want to consolidate, you still can. But you don't have to feel like, oh, I have to be working for, you know, I used to work for a government agency, now I work for a private company, I can't do it, even though I worked for that government agency for, 15 years. Go back and get what's yours. So it's okay that you're not working for a qualified employer at the time of your application or forgiveness. Then if you received teacher loan forgiveness, so if there's any teachers on here, or if you know any teachers that work for Fulton County or any surrounding counties, you can sort of double dip. So the period of service that led to your eligibility can count towards PSLF. So there's nothing that disqualifies you for PSLF or teacher loan forgiveness by being on both. So keep that in mind and get what's yours. So Brenda, we'll take a pause. We have a few more slides, but why don't we take a few questions and then we'll finish this out.
Okay, we have several, and then I know we won't get to them all right just now. Okay, next question. What about those that consolidated and paid off their student loan?
Okay, so the question would be, so if you paid off your student loan, you consolidated and you already did that. So I would look at the time frame you paid them off. So let's say if you paid them off since we were in COVID forbearance, since April 2022 or since April 2020, there could be a possibility if the loan was closed and done, they may say, no, we're not able to do it. But what you want to do, you want to go to your loan servicer and you want to see if you can request a refund for overpayments. Because so the two things that we're talking about today is what they announced about the 10,000 and 20,000. 10,000 and 20,000, you definitely wouldn't qualify for those if the loans have been paid off. For public service loan forgiveness, I feel like there could be a possibility. I know people that have not been able to, and certain people that because of the loan was still open and still showing zero, they were able to get it. But I would definitely start with your student loan servicer. There could be some additional information on the studentaid.gov website that will give you more clarity on that too. But congratulations for getting your loans paid off.
Yes. Next question. I graduated last year and loan payments will usually begin 6 months after. I've been employed with the county for over 20 years. Will I qualify for the PSLF?
Oh my gosh, you should. Make sure you follow those steps, okay? Look, I'm gonna have some final steps at the end, but look at the loan that you're on. If it's not a direct loan, you need to consolidate, okay? Once you consolidate, then you can start submitting those forms, which if you've only worked for Fulton County, that's going to be super easy. Okay, the team at Fulton County, they're going to turn that around really quick when you fill out that PSLF form. They're going to have start date, end date of your employment with them. And they should be able to, even if you were on the wrong loan before, once you consolidate, you're on the right loan, they should go back and count those. Now, since you were there for 20 something years, you could have only been in school, I don't know, 2 years, 4 years or something like that. So I think that should probably still, count as well, but let's say it didn't. So let's take that out of the mix. It looks like you clearly have eclipsed 10 years very easily, but you still have to follow those steps. It's not automatic, and they're not going to consolidate your loan for you unless you initiate the process. Okay, let's take one more, and then I'll get to the next
And then
slide.
I just wanted to kind of a little question also about that one. I don't know if this employee has started making any loan payments as of yet at all on the loan. Will that make a difference?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so you're saying, okay, so when she says she worked there for 20 years, it doesn't mean that she had loans at the time.
Right, she's just graduating. She
Oh, okay,
graduated
she
last
just-
year, and the loans will be starting soon.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So the loans would have had to, you would have had to be in a payment window of a student loan. So they won't go back and count employment prior to you incurring the loans. Okay, so I think they give you the option to start paying right away your loans, and the only reason I would ever say this, because it sounds so crazy, the only reason I would say start paying your loans right away is because you're not in that forbearance period or that deferment period, that 6 months after you graduate. So since your payment, I guess, repayment period is turned on, those payments should count. Now, right now, the payments that you're making is $0. So it would make sense. So I would probably get those turned on right away. Make sure you're on a direct loan, get the loans turned on right away, call your service and say, hey, I'm ready to, be an active payer. And then you would be required to pay $0 because we're still within this COVID. So that would be for the next 3-4 months, let's see, October, November, December. So you're 4 more months. So if you haven't already started being in active repayment status, even if it's $0, you want to make sure that's on. It sounds like it is, since it was last year, so that it can start the ticker. It can start the clock on your payments, but it's not going to go back prior to when those loans were incurred. Okay.
Okay.
So did that clarify?
Oh, it did to me. We'll
Okay.
see if Kelly replies again in the chat.
Okay.
Last question as you move on. Can part-time employees apply for PLSF, or is it just full-time?
Okay. So I did have one slide on that. So you do have to be either full-time or work 30 hours a week. And that full-time or that 30 hours a week, it can be spread across 2 different qualifying employers. But if you only work, let's say, part-time for Fulton County and you work 20 hours a week and that's it, that will not count, unfortunately. It has to be at least 30 hours or full-time as defined by the agency. So, so the part-time alone for one qualifying employer, if it's less than 30 hours, would not count.
Okay, because they wanted to use anything that can make hiring more advantageous and using
Right.
that as an option. So you
Right,
say
and
30 hours or more.
yeah, 30 hours or more, or, across 2 different qualified employers. So just keep that in mind.
Okay.
All right, so I mentioned this several times, but you've got this PSLF form. This is the form that gets your certification of your employment. And this may be familiar to some people. It used to be called the ECF form, but now it's formally called the PSLF form. I'm going to show a live example once I'm done with the presentation, but there's something called the PSLF help tool. You are better off using that tool to get this filled out. It's basically like a wizard, like TurboTax. It'll ask you for, your employer's EIN number. It's going to ask you for the dates. It's going to ask you for several pieces of information. And as you plug it in at the end, it's going to spit out this form. that's completed with the information that you have given them. And then you take that, you sign it, you get it to Fulton County, and they'll turn it around really quick. But I just want to show you what the form looks like, and that this is what will help, get your counts for, help make sure you get credit for that qualifying employment. So here is the process for Fulton County. If you work for another employer that you need to count, they may have a different process, but Fulton County has made it very easy for you. The first thing is you get a copy of the form at PSLF or at studentaid.gov/PSLF. You're better off doing the tool, because I've just seen a lot where people are talking about their form got kicked back from when they turned it in because something was scratched out or something was not right. If you use the tool, it's going to minimize the chances of something being incorrect. So you can walk through the tool, which is just a little wizard, or you can download a copy of the form, and then it becomes like a fillable PDF. So next, you complete and sign the form. Signing in the form is critical. You can, if you sign the form and you send it to the Fulton County HR, they're going to return it to you because they cannot process it without it being signed. That's one piece of information that must be on there. They'll help you out, they're willing to fill out the dates, they're willing to do other certain pieces of information that's required on there, but you must sign and date the form yourself. And again, when we go to the form, I'll show you those details. And then once you get the form signed and it's completed, you email it to Fulton County HR. You guys should all have the email address. And the girls have said that they have gotten a ton of these forms, so they're very familiar with them. You will get that turned around in 2 to 3 days, probably sooner, but they're going to get that back to you very quickly. And the last part is you return the completed form. It means that you signed and completed it. Fulton County has signed and completed their part. There's a section on there, section 7 used to say, send that form to FedLoan. Not anymore. They have the MOHELA information. You can, the easiest way is probably to upload it. They have an option in their website where you could upload that form, or you can mail it. That's going to take a lot longer. But returning this completed signed certification form to MOHELA is your last step to make sure that you're getting credit, and that for that year, your employment is being counted. And everyone has suggested do it once a year. You probably don't need to do it any more often than that. Maybe if you change employers or something like that. So this is the Fulton County process. Now here's where to start. When you want to get your to get going with the public service loan forgiveness. So this is the waiver. It's at studentaid.gov/PSLF. The QR code is live. So if you scan that, you'll go there. They have frequently asked questions. They have a lot of details. So anything that we weren't able to get you a definitive answer to, more than likely, you're going to be able to find it on studentaid.gov/PSLF. Or a lot of those different groups like Facebook groups, Reddit, things like that. There are groups that are dedicated to that, where people are asking the same questions again and again. They're getting good answers from people that have gone through the process and so forth. So that's where you want to start. Over here to the left, that's your little navigator for this PSLF. And then at the very top, when you're ready to consolidate, you just go to manage loans. You also go to manage loans when you want to look at the loan simulator. So this is MOHELA. Mention that. I want you to just be familiar with what that website looks like. If your loan has not already been moved to MOHELA, it will be. And MOHELA has a dedicated page talking about PSLF. So you just go to mohela.com/PSLF. And they have a whole website. You just obviously would click on borrowers, and you'll have a lot of information that's accessible to you there. And then I wanted to just show you some checkpoints. So now we're pulling all this together, right? So hopefully we got most of your questions answered. We're going to have some time to answer even more questions, but here are your checkpoints, okay? Based on everything that we learned today, everything that Chad and Lamarian talked about, this is pulling it all together. So make sure you are on a direct loan or consolidate to a direct loan. That's really important. That's what gets the ball rolling. Then make sure you're on an income-driven repayment plan. Use the loan simulator at studentaid.gov. That will give you an indicator of what is the best. Whichever you choose, make sure that it is qualified for the public service loan forgiveness. Again, it'll serve you up a bunch of different options when you use that loan simulator. Not all of them are really compatible with the public service loan forgiveness. And actually, I think studentaid.gov will give you a list of all the compatible income-driven repayment plans. Then check your payment count. I was kind of shocked at the program initially where people barely knew where to check their payment counts. So you want to know where you're at. It's like, how can you lose 20 pounds if you don't even count the pounds that you're losing? So check your payment count. You can do that either at your loan servicer or studentaid.gov. Both of them should have that. I think there's a little bit of a delay at studentaid.gov as far as your payment count, but your loan servicer, soon after they get your payments, they should see that. And again, everything now is zero. So there's really nothing to count since April, but you should make sure you're keeping up with that. And it still counts as on-time payment. So complete and submit the public service loan forgiveness forms. I see a typo already, but the public service loan forgiveness form or the ECF, but you use that tool to complete that form. You need to make sure you sign it, get it to Fulton County HR. They will sign off on it and give it back to you within a couple of days. And once you have it, you get it to MOHELA. And then you've gotten verification done. If there's something wrong with it, they should let you know, but I would give it maybe a week and check and make sure it's been received okay. I don't want anything in limbo because we have this looming deadline of October 31st. So I'll give them a little bit of time to process it, but make sure they got it. So what next? So I wanted to kind of capture everyone regardless of where they might be in this process. So the first one is if you borrowed direct loans. So these are people that may have recent student loans, let's say in the last 5 or 10 years. So you're already on a direct loan, okay? So all you do is file a PSLF form, which we just talked about, for each eligible employer. If it's only Fulton County, you're home free because they have made the process very easy. And you just make sure also that you're on a qualified income-driven repayment plan that is compatible with PSLF. Now, let's say that if you consolidate it into a direct loan, your next step would be to file the PSLF form for each eligible employer you had and any underlying direct consolidation loan. So you want to make sure that, those underlying loans, while you were on those underlying loans, even though they might have been wrong, that you are getting that counted as well when you're trying to make sure that you have the correct count. I wouldn't depend on them to do it. Nobody cares about it more than you. And then lastly, if you are still on one of those older loans, like the Perkins or the FFEL, you want to consolidate your loans. That's the big first step. And then you file those forms. So the order of operation would be consolidate first, the forms second. And then you want to do it for, any employer that you were at before you borrowed the loan, if you need that time. Like if you got 120 at Fulton County, then it's no need to bother with the other place if that's gonna, do it. So again, at the bottom of all of these, and Chad mentioned it as well, any payments that you want counted could have only happened after October of 2007. Okay, that's when the program started, and they're not going to count anything prior to October 2007. So you can go back, but you can't go way back. Okay, let's see what we got now. So if you have complaints, which we know that, as much as we try to cover everything and address everything and everyone's aware of the process, you still may have issues or where things were disputes or things were not done right, okay? You have some recourse here. There is a place on the studentaid.gov website where you can file a complaint. And basically you're using like this ombudsman that they're a group that kind of are the last result. So let's say you're following all the steps, you're doing everything you're supposed to do, but there's still a dispute, there's still an issue there's still something that has been done wrong, or you've been done wrong in trying to do this process, this is your recourse. Okay, so there's a direct link there, but it's just on the studentaid.gov website. And I never like to leave without some resources. So let me give you some of the resources that have been the most helpful to me. So this is sort of your reference page. If you still kind of have questions, or you're looking for a good resource to really dive into a certain area we talked about. So the first two talked about the whole presentation, but they have a ton more information. Then consumerfinance.gov, they have a lot of great information about student loans, public service loan forgiveness, and so forth. And they are a government agency. ForgiveMyStudentDebt.org, that's where I was able to pull all of those numbers about the different states and how much loan had been forgiven. And they also have some nice videos on there, step-by-step stuff. I really love that website. And then studentloanplanner.com. So they have some really good experts that they're one of the resources I use if I want the quickest thing, right? If I want the most current thing. They do podcasts, YouTube, they have a great blog. And one of the other things that they do, let's say someone has a really large balance where they want guidance, maybe they have a complicated situation where they have a spouse, they want to make sure that they're on the right repayment plan based on their spouse and all these other things. They do consultations. And that's what their company is all about. They do student loan consultations for like some flat fee. But then again, if you have a really large loan and you want to make sure that you are doing this in the most efficient way, they're there to help as well. But on top of that, they provide a lot of really good free content on multiple different platforms. So those are the resources. Again, that's like a reference page. And then our next session, don't forget about that. That's on September 13th. We'll answer follow-up questions. If we don't get to everything today, we can do follow-up questions there. But we want to get you going, and we want to check in with you to help you get to the finish line. We'll also share issues, delays that you're having in the process, your experience. Maybe we'll have some other successes by then. We'd love to hear your wins and successes with the program. And then I'm sure by that time there will be an update on the loan cancellation that was announced. It was actually announced on the 24th, but they're forthcoming with some information. So I'm hoping in the next 2 weeks, I'll be able to give you more updates from that. Like for instance, maybe they'll have the application or maybe they'll have more information that will help us out. So that pretty much does it. So I hit the nuts and bolts, but I know there are still a million questions and you want to make sure that your loan is taken care of. So in the next 20 minutes or so, let's go ahead and do that. And what I'm going to do while you pull up some questions, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then I'm going to go to that form that I wanted to show everybody. So we'll look at that too. So what questions do you have, Brenda?
Okay, let's see. I'll pick up with Phyllis. Navient, who I was with.
Brenda, could you talk up just a little bit? We could barely hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Not as well.
Okay.
Better.
It's better. It's better.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I have that issue. Navient, who I was with, and they changed me to another company.
Okay, if you had Navient and they changed it to another company, I would like to know which company. The official public service loan forgiveness company is MOHELA. The only other name you should see being a part of this program is AidVantage, and they're doing this consolidations. So you're probably not a part of the program if you're not with MOHELA, FedLoan, or being consolidated through AidVantage. So look at who they moved you to and double check that.
Okay. And this one, I think you probably covered. Who are the qualified nonprofits?
Yeah, the qualified nonprofits are 501(c)(3). They have to have that status. Normally, you can find that right on their website, or you can, if you used to be employed by them, get with them and they'll be able to tell you. If you go to the public service loan forgiveness, the help tool, that tool will allow you to look up an organization or government agency and find the EIN number there. So use that tool and that'll help you find it as well.
Okay, the next one is a kind of long one. The Federal Loan Service informed me in a letter my loan was being forwarded for confirmation of my PSLF eligibility. It's been established that I qualify for forgiveness. However, I have a query regarding prepayments. It states you may prepay your loan and have those payments count towards forgiveness. Each prepayment will only count for up to 12 qualifying payments. Can you elaborate on the prepayment?
Yeah, I'm not about the prepayments, because if you are going for loan forgiveness, you wouldn't want to prepay anything, because after 120 payments, they're forgiven the whole thing, regardless of how much it is. So I would look at, who did that come from? I'm assuming it came from FedLoan, as far as, saying that you're part of the PLS, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. And just also, I meant to mention that with all these announcements and confusion with the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, there are some people out there, companies that are pretending to be able to help you. And so I wouldn't do any prepayments at all. Like if it didn't come from studentaid.gov or MOHELA or FedLoan, I would not do it. So you shouldn't have to make any prepayments. This is to relieve your burden, not to add to it. Payments right now are $0. I wouldn't pay a penny more than that. Okay.
Okay. What if you were self-employed but doing a lot of indigent work?
Yeah, unfortunately, volunteer and self-employment stuff does not count. You have to be a direct employer of the qualified government agency or qualified nonprofit agency to be able to get credit for it, and it has to meet those 30 hours.
Okay. You made payments, but were under the weren't under the current program at the time. Can you go back and have those payments counted towards the 120 payments after enrolling in the correct plan?
Okay, so they are going. So part of the waiver is that they are going back and they're counting payments that you made while you were on the wrong loan or the wrong repayment plan. So the answer is yes, if it is some type of federal loan. Okay, so I mentioned specifically the FFEL, the Perkins loan, and even the Parent Plus loan. Parent Plus loans, they're not going to count those payments, but the other two you can. Parent Plus loan, you can consolidate. So if you have already moved your loans out of the federal loan system and you're with a private bank or a private lender, those are not going to count, and there's no way to get back into the system with those loans.
Okay, next question.
Okay, Brenda, if you would ask the deferment question, and that will be our last question, because I would like for Jackie to go to the site to be able to give an example of what needs to be done. And we have 2 surveys that we need to complete.
Go ahead. I don't see the deferment question. Is it in the Q&A? Or
you see it?
I have had all my loans from law school. They are direct loans, but I have had them in deferment since 2016 when I graduated. Does deferment allow me to still receive credit? Credit for the last 2 years of the loan payment?
Yeah, if they're in deferment, I don't think so, but double check me on that by getting with your loan servicer or checking at studentaid.gov. I think if you are in deferment, it would not count. The only exception was deferment/forbearance. The exception would be the COVID pause that we're having now. So if your payments were turned on, or your payment, if your payment was turned on, then during the COVID period, those $0 payments do count. But if you were in deferment otherwise or forbearance otherwise, I don't think they do, but get confirmation from your servicer, or that may be a frequently asked question or somewhere on the studentaid.gov website. But that's a really good question because that's a long period of time.
Okay, now, so There's several other questions here, and I guess at the end, you'll just discuss how you want to address those, or we're gonna send something out, or they'll come back and get more
Yeah, we could
clarity at the next.
yeah, we could consolidate any unanswered questions and, put something
Then-
together so that the participants could get those answered. I just want to point out one thing before you go through the form and then we go to the survey is, I know I was listening and I heard some individuals talk about that they've worked for other nonprofits and they can't get their EI, they can't get that employer ID number as easily as you can when you call, the best office in Fulton County, the HR office, and we provide that to you. So I found the actual IRS website. So since these individuals had to be a tax exempt organization, nonprofit, 501(c)(3), all of that good stuff, that's public information. So there's a link that I dropped into. I don't know how to get it to everyone, so hopefully somebody can move it from the host and panelist group to the everyone group. But it's a link that carries you to the IRS website. You put in their name, state, whatever, and it should pop up the EIN number.
Right.
Awesome. Yeah, and I was about to say, probably when it comes to government and nonprofits, those are probably the easiest EIN numbers to find versus a private corporation. Yeah, it will be on your W-2, possibly be with some of your tax stuff. So that is readily available information. And they do require that in order to complete that form.
Yes, that is actually the first step. You need to receive that certification from your employer using that number. And on the website, it does give you a list.
All right, Jackie, back to you.
Okay, so I'm going to just show this form, and I just only wanted everybody to be clear on what it looks like and what's required, what's not, and so forth. So this is just the PDF. Again, if you go through that tool, it'll generate all this information for you. This is obviously just fake information, but everything in green, you as an employee, this is what you want to fill out. It's going to ask you for your social security number, date of birth, the address, telephone number, and your email address. Okay. The next section, section 2, is the borrower request. I think Chad might have mentioned this, but it's just going to ask you, so do you just want to find out how many qualifying payments you have from this qualified employer? If you believe that you qualify for forgiveness right now, you would select that. So that section you want to fill out. That's not going to get it kicked back on that. Then it's just going to ask you to confirm some information. You must have your signature and the date. And I just put a note here that if you're going back to check this box, if you cannot obtain certification. So I guess they're saying that if you're having problems with a prior employer, let us know and they'll try to work with you on that. On the second page, everything in yellow, this is the Fulton County stuff. Either you can fill it out or Fulton County can fill that out. They won't kick it back, but it's going to ask you, for the organization. And I don't even know, you guys, did I get the right EIN number for Fulton County? I think I did. I went somewhere and looked for it, but they're obviously going to ask for the EIN number. Is that right?
I think that's right.
Okay, so they're going to ask for the address, and again, it's easy for you guys because it's just on your paycheck. They ask for the website, then they ask for the employment begin and end date. If you're not sure, I'm going to say leave it to HR or ask HR, what the time frame was, because if you start marking that out and everything, they're probably going to kick it back. So you've got your dates there. Everything that's on the right side, you don't have to fill out. Let's see. And
now, Jack, and one thing I want to bring to their attention, that they must complete application for each time frame. You can't combine them. It gets thrown out if you try to combine the time frames.
So when you say time frames, you mean like if they work for Fulton County more than one period of time?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, so if you worked, 10 years ago and you were there for 5 years, you left and you came back, you can't combine that time frame because there was a break in service. So those have to be separately done. Okay, and then they put in the hours of the week, the type of organization, and then HR will complete the rest. So only HR can do this. Okay, and then that's basically it. The rest, I'm gonna make this smaller, but the rest is just sort of some legalese stuff. You know, you can read through that. That gives you some information. I again have the green box just so once you get this form back from Fulton County, this is the information on MHELA. You can go to upload it. There's the address. You can fax it. I think the quickest way is probably going to be to just upload it. But this is box 7 that gives you instructions on where to send this form once it's all complete. And then that's it, you guys. The rest is just, like I said, legalese. But I just wanted to show you what that form looks like. One other quick thing, I just want to show you the studentaid.gov. So I'm going to reshare this. So this was that big announcement about the $10,000 and $20,000 forgiveness. If for some reason you want the latest updates, you can go to Department of Education subscription page, and it will let you say, okay, I do want your updates, and here's my email address. The top one is the new federal loan update. So some people want to keep track of that. Okay, this is the main, are you guys seeing the studentaid.gov webpage now? Okay. This is the main studentaid.gov webpage. At the very top, you see all these menus. Almost everything you need is going to be under managed loans. And once you float your mouse on managed loans, you'll see you get these menus. You can consolidate your loans here. You can go to the loan simulator. So all your stuff is like right here on this page. The last thing I wanted to show you is just the page where you have the ombudsman. I always pronounce that wrong, but this is where you can file a complaint as a last resort. And so that kind of covers everything that I have, but I just wanted you to get a feel for studentaid.gov. It's pretty easy to navigate. There's a lot of additional information there that could be helpful to you. I'm gonna go to, so the main page is gonna be studentaid.gov/PSLF. And once you go there, there's a lot of questions, a lot of clarification. It digs into everything that you want to know about, but this is what that page looks like. Talks about the waiver, learn more about the waiver, the PSLF help tool, all of that. You will have to sign on to do the help tool because they are pulling your information. So that pretty much does it for me. And, you know, once you're done with the survey and everything, Virginia, you know, I'm happy to hang on, or we can do like another pre-recorded thing where we hit some of these questions that you think are helpful. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. And I really want to thank Fulton County for having me do this today. It really warms my heart that your agency is providing this to your employees, because this is such a huge, huge program that are going to change a lot of lives. And 5 years ago, I would have never guessed that this would even be available to people. So it's big, and I don't want Fulton County employees to miss out on it. So hopefully we'll be able to have a lot of people with stories like Chad and Lamarian.
Okay. Jackie, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, it really is a big deal, the loan forgiveness program, and we want to make it a big deal and a value for our Fulton County employees. So we appreciate you so much. Thank you so much. Also, Chad and Lamarian, thank you. And we do have 2 surveys that we would like to complete. The first survey is going to be information so that we can get a good idea of how many people actually participated, how many people applied and received the loan forgiveness and that amount. So that's going to be the first survey. And then the second survey is going to be for you to give feedback for our program itself so that we can better help you in providing services in the future. So I'm going to share my screen. I also put the 2 different links in the chat. So you should be able to go and click on those 2 links and go to the surveys. If not, I am going to provide them on a PowerPoint for you to be able to click directly on the link.
Okay, Virginia, what else you got for me? Are we,
Okay, I'm trying to share this screen so that I can put up this PowerPoint. So let me get out of this,
okay.
share my screen.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through these questions here. seeing what I
Okay.
have.
You.
Virginia, if you wanted to, they can just click the links in the chat.
Yeah, if you click the link in the chat, I'm going to also share my screen to give you the actual PowerPoint.
Well, Virginia, while you're doing that and getting set, again, I just want to thank you, Jackie, for again, working with us on this project. Ensure that while my team, subject matter experts, and they in developing training courses and getting data, there's none like a real life experience subject matter expert to come in and be able to articulate clearly how the program works, real life experiences, and the like. So, it's on behalf of, the leadership.
Okay, are you able to see the survey on the screen? Okay, you can either click the survey itself, you could copy it and paste it into a browser, or you can go to the QR code with your phone and it will take you directly to the first survey to provide information for your public service forgiveness loan. Okay, and now this next slide is going to be for you to actually provide feedback for our HR employee development division so that we can continue to make sure that the resources that we are providing for you are resources that are needed. And it is the same process. You can either click on the code itself for the link, you can scan the QR code with your cell phone, or you can copy it and place in a browser. And the title for the course is Public Service Loan Forgiveness. And once you get the titles for courses, it is going to be the last course that is listed in that list of courses for today's date, August 30th, 2022. Any other questions or concerns? Mr. Herman, any other comments?
Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I was talking for like 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, now we're just beginning to hear you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Jackie, for once again, enlightening us with your knowledge of, all things financial. And you're right. On my goal of trying to turn our Fulton County employees to millionaires, this is just another step along the way. And thank all the employees for taking time. It's taking 2 hours out of your day to participate in this very informational and interactive program that ultimately has no benefit to me, Virginia, or Jackie. It's all about you. And I hope you really realize that, as Fulton County tries to put its best foot forward and be the public employer of choice, that these kind of programs really is cementing that for you, and it's not just talk. It's more action than anything else. So again, thank you guys for making this happen. We are excited to start getting the feedback. On my little chart, I'm already up to 90,000 in college loans being forgiven from county employees, and I'm hoping to get that to 1 million based on the 139 employees that at least participated in this session, and hopefully the others that will participate in the other session. So again, it's it's great to work for Fulton County. It's great to, you know what? After the last 3 years that we just had, it's great to just be alive, and just this opportunity to cement your financial future is just another way of, you know, being appreciative of the circumstances that we have right now. And, you know, we hope that you're able to leverage it and take full advantage of it. And thank you guys very much.
Again, thank you. Thank you for participating. And I would like to inform you to please complete the 2 surveys, because this is how we get your attendance for today. And this is how I will be able to share the recording with you if you participate in the 2 surveys, so that I can have your information to share. Again, thank you so much. It has been an awesome time that we spent with you, and we are going to make sure that we continue to provide different services to you in order to provide the value to you as employees. Jackie, thank you again so very much. Chad and Lamarion, thank you again so very much. Brenda, thank you. And all the IT team, as well as our Fulton County FGTV and communications team.
Thank you.
Virginia, you did have in the chat, someone wanted to know if we can put the links in YouTube.
Put it back in the chat again.
In YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Show up. Yeah, they wanted if you can post the YouTube. Oh,
okay. I'm going to stop share and see if I can put it in the YouTube.
Link? That's what it said.
Okay.
Can you post the YouTube link? That's what the question was.
Give me a second.
Okay.
Give me a second. I'll post it.
Rico, can you put it there?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay. Rico, if there are no further questions or concerns, I think that this is a done deal. Thank you so much. Awesome.
Not a problem.